Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Today is push day and I'm going to bring you along and show you how I train to grow my chest, my shoulders, my triceps as a natural bodybuilder. I'm going to bring you along every single exercise, every single set, every single rep so that you can see how I do things and how you can then maybe take that into your own training in whatever gym you're training at to grow as much muscle as you possibly can as a natural athlete. So sit back, relax and enjoy the video. So exercise number one will be a lateral raise. So I like to go for a lateral raise at this point in the session. One, because it kind of warms me up, gets me physically, but also mentally ready to go into kind of a pressing of the session. But it also allows us to just add on a little bit extra delt volume where most people need more delts, more side delts, and they can also respond well to quite a bit of work and they recover very well. So for a lot of people, I think it makes a lot of sense. Prime the shoulder, prime yourself mentally, and then also just get a little bit of extra work in. So yeah, I'm gonna start with a lateral raise variation. Here, depending on what your gym has, something like a standing lateral raise or even like a dumbbell lateral is gonna work really well at this point in the session because of just where it's maybe a little bit heavier. So majority of those machines or a dumbbell, for example, are gonna be a little bit heavier in the short. So starting with something like that initially tends to work very, very well when you're fresher and you can get up to that range a little bit easier, let's say. So yeah, I'm gonna start off with this now. The Cybex kneeling lateral, very similar to kind of like a standing lateral. We've got the max pump and the Panata standing. But this for me, especially having a chest support, works really, really well. So yeah, if your gym doesn't have something like this, a dumbbell lateral will work very, very well at this point in the session. Moving on to exercise number two, which will be the first press of the session. So for me, this is the Strive flat press. There's a very small kind of incline to it, you could argue, but I look at it primarily as a flat press. So for me, I think I spent a lot of time doing incline press work, and I think it works really, really well. But moving on to the third exercise, that's going to bring in a little bit kind of upper pec for me. So at this point, it makes sense to do a flat press. So if, for example, you wanted to set this up in your gym, you could be looking at a flat press machine, or you could be looking at something like a very low incline dumbbell, low incline Smith, or even a flat dumbbell, flat Smith. That would work extremely well at this point in the session as well. So yeah, with the Strive, obviously we have the ability to adjust resistance profiles, which also allows me to actually get a little bit of extra work done on here with it being still very productive. So I'll run through that in a little bit, but we'll warm up, do the first set, and I'll talk you through kind of where I'm going to change the resistance profiles for those sets onwards. Okay. Set one done. That was a rep up on last week and a little bit of load up as well. So I'll take that. That's pretty good. Next set now, that was on setting one, which is basically relatively even resistance profile. I'll now drop it down to setting 5, which is a little bit more length and bias. So all that means it's a little bit heavier here. It drops off a little bit there. I could realistically run with probably setting 1 again on this because I'm still fresh. Like I've done 1 set of pecs, but I actually find that I just get so much more out of it. My chest feels so much better. And essentially I can keep loads a little bit closer, which is obviously perfect. So what I'll actually do for this set now is I'll drop down load and I'll also drop down to setting 5. So a little bit heavier here, a little bit lighter there. And then what I'll do is I'll essentially keep the same load, drop down then to setting 3 for the 3rd set, which basically drops off a little bit more in that length, in that shortened range, and a little bit heavier in the lengthened. So I'm almost going from like an even resistance to then a little bit less, and then even less on the final set. So essentially just matching the resistance profile of the machine with the strength profile of my chest. So yeah, again, you don't have to do this. If you don't have these bits of kit available, then obviously you can't anyway, but you could play around with kind of tempos and where you're pausing within a set. For example, if you're doing a dumbbell press, pausing at the lengthened could just make it a little bit more challenging once you fatigue, maybe for like a 3rd set. So yeah, give it a try maybe. But yeah, 2 more sets on here. So I'm gonna drop down about 50 pounds and then keep it there for the next 2. Okay. Oh. Onto the shoulder press of the session. So did the flat press, and then like I was saying, this is almost like a high incline press for me. So a little bit of shoulder, a little bit of pec. So if you wanted to set this up in your gym and you didn't have the Atlantis shoulder press, you could use obviously any shoulder press machine, but something like a high incline Smith would work very, very well here. And it's going to be very, very similar to this. So that way then you've ticked off your flat press and you've ticked off kind of like that incline / shoulder press. And for most people, a high incline is going to feel far better. So this has been progressing very well. And then it felt extremely heavy the last 2 sessions. So fingers crossed today's set goes all right. But I've run this for a long time and I've gone through waves where it's felt kind of very, very good and then hit a wall and then it's progressed again. And it's just one of those where if you stick with it, you'll be able to keep progressing. So I'm not going to change it. I'm going to keep with it, but we'll see what we get today. 1. So now we move on to the third compound of the session. So for me, this is a tricep compound. This could be another chest variation. It could be, or a chest press variation, or it could be another shoulder press if you really wanted it to be. Or you could actually not have it at all. But for me, I'm doing the hammer strength seated dip. So it just gives me a little bit of pec, a little bit of tricep, and it kind of ties in the two, which is really useful. But like I said, you could, if you wanted, actually just take it out completely. So yeah, for me, I keep it in just because it gives me a little bit more work for the triceps directly, and a little bit more quality work as well, potentially. So yeah, if you wanted to, in your gym, and you didn't have a seated dip machine, obviously you could do a bodyweight dip, assisted dip, or you could even do something like a close grip bench press, would work very, very well. So yeah, there we go. So we got lateral, chest press, shoulder press, and now into dip or tricep compound. Yo! Oh. 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 So that is the dip done. So we're moving on to a pec isolation this time. So to be honest with you, again, this is kind of, you could pick between maybe a pec or a shoulder isolation, depending on what you need more of. But I've got the availability to be able to do a little bit more within my session time-wise. And also I can recover from it. If I can't, I pull stuff down. So I will now do a pec isolation, which will be pec deck. This is like a decline pec deck. And it feels honestly pretty damn good for something that usually I would turn my nose up at maybe, but I'm definitely a little bit more open-minded when it comes to kit these days, as opposed to before I'd kind of be like, I don't want to use that, it doesn't look good. Whereas now I'll at least give it a shot, and I'll sometimes be pleasantly surprised, and this was one of them. So yeah, pec isolation, you could do, like I said, something like dumbbell fly, cable fly, pec deck. You know, it doesn't really matter, just a pec isolation. Oh, okay. Next, onto the shoulder isolation or delt isolation. So like I said, you could really pick this or the pec deck. But for me, I go between I use both of them just because I can at the moment. So I'll now move on to a single arm lateral raise. This, again, being a little bit selective with kind of movement selection here. Opting for this where I can set it up to drop off a little bit in the short ends when I get up to the top. But to be honest, like, you pick any movement you like and you do it well, it'll be fine. So yeah, we'll move on to this now. And then triceps and session's pretty much done. So like I said, you could make this shorter if you wanted to. I make it a little bit longer and it works all right. Right, on to tricep work now. So here I'm doing a press down crossbody cable. So a little bit more short and bias. So you can do anything here. Could be like a straight bar press down, rope press down, or even this. You can set this up pretty much anywhere. So yeah, triceps. That's pretty much it. There's nothing really more to say to get into the set. Next, tricep movement are. So we did the crossbody extension. We're now going with an overhead. So a little bit more length and bias at this point. So I'm getting proper fucking nerdy in this one, aren't I? But it's just words realistically. So, we've done something where we're pressing down. We're now doing something where we're pressing overhead. Just training the tricep through different ranges. Nothing fancy, literally just simple if you actually break it down. So this could be for you the exact same on a cable, or you could do something like a dumbbell skull crusher, barbell skull crusher, something where you're basically pressing from overhead. That's what you want to aim for on this one then. And then we'll pretty much wrap up the session. So yeah, I'll show you how I'll finish up, but we'll do a few sets of this and then I'll catch you before the end. Oh, shit. Oof. Okay, and that's a wrap. So literally end up there or finish up there. So session breakdown, realistically, very simple. Lateral to start, chest press, shoulder press, tricep compound, pec isolation, delt isolation, tricep. Super easy. If you wanted, you could take out the the pec or delt isolation, and you could also take out the tricep compound if you really wanted to make the session a little bit shorter or just fit your needs. So hopefully you enjoyed, hopefully you took something from it. I'm gonna finish up with most likely some rounds of posing, if I can get in the posing room, and I'll leave you there. So yeah, hopefully you have enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one.